Yes, he is a pro. So what? Just because they take them doesn't mean they know a ton of shit about it. When he referred to the performance enhancing drugs and then he says this wasn't recreational, are you trying to say that what's recreational? Cocaine? And she was doing it with zero help and very little experience because of her age. Yeah, how much experience can you fucking have when you're 20? The success of making bodybuilding bigger, it hasn't really gotten bigger. And everybody that goes to the gym isn't into this shit. They're just not. Everybody has their own opinions, and that's fine. But you know what, like, nobody's interested in? Natty. With this, I just totally disagree with his take on this for the sport of bodybuilding. As a part of this, too, I wanted to continue to show people what else I do, you know, with the TRT and give you this. This is, he would have tested even lower than that. And you could see my response because you should sue him. That's insane. We're going to do the Make America Great Again. A little bit of politics for just a moment. Well, how about what was going on with tariffs before Trump made, you know, tariffs this beautiful word? It doesn't end well unless it ends. Can't just report the fucking obvious.
I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and
just another fucking jump. Just go. Let's fucking go. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy, and the other fucking guy in the room is Chase.
What's up, man? How you doing today?
I am doing pretty damn good, brother. Pretty damn good. Pretty fabulous. Friday, very quickly. Friday didn't work out as well as we had hoped because of rain here in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
And the cold and the game got canceled. So we were there, but I did get some cool pictures and White Sox hat.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
So we'll go to another game.
Collection. Yeah, I was about to say, there'll be plenty more. It doesn't rain
There
very
will
often.
be. And then last night we had a great time at the Brantley Gilbert concert. And that dude is way underrated. Way underrated for.
You said Bradley who?
Brantley Gilbert.
Brantley
Gilbert. Yep. He's actually a really good songwriter and has written a number of very good hits, not just for himself, but for other people like Jason Aldean that are pretty well known. And yeah, he put on a really, really good show. Very high energy, was just cool. We met him afterwards, got a picture taken, posted that on Facebook. So yeah, for y'all, if you want, follow me on Facebook. That wouldn't be a bad thing to do. But let's get started with the show. And we start with our Maha segment. So starting with the Maha segment, which is Make America Healthy Again, we are going to start with this story that's been blowing up this past week on social media. And a particular influencer and IFBB pro, Greg Doucette, has done some videos on it. And although I like some of the things that Greg does when it comes to diet and stuff like that, I when it comes to performance enhancing drugs, TRT, those kinds of things, we don't necessarily see eye to eye. So I'm going to give my perspective on that. Yes, he is a pro. So what? You know, lots of people that are pros are not experts on performance enhancing drugs. Just because they take them doesn't mean they know a ton of shit about it. Most of them are going to use a coach. But this is a big story because you have a 20-year-old girl who has been competing, who also calls herself a coach, which is absolutely crazy. Because at 20, you know, Dawn and I, even today at the gym, saw this really young trainer working with a guy that had to be over 60, and some of the things they were doing. And we just looked at each other after seeing what was going on and just shook our heads at each other. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is that? And you got to get experience. I get that. But you're hiring a 20-year-old that barely knows how to work out himself. That basically, yeah, but just barely works out himself. They just passed an online test. And I hate to bring it up again because I know people aren't going to like it and I'm body shaming and it just is what it is. But we were just at a different mountainside and this female trainer had to be about, well, Dawn is like 5'3", 5'4". She's like 5'4". Dawn's not tall, okay? This chick had to be 5'2" at best. And my best guess is at least 250 or more. She was a beach ball, okay? I don't know how to say it. She was a beach ball. And she was a personal trainer. She was not overweight. She was literally, seriously obese. Obese. Yet, I don't know how you hire somebody like that for that position. They can work at the desk. They can work, and maybe work towards their thing. But shouldn't they get into some motherfucking kind of shape themselves before they're telling other people what to do? Or is it just about moving weight around? If you come to the gym, you're coming there for a purpose yourself. You're going to have a purpose. And it's probably going to be healthier, to add muscle, maybe to drop some weight. And I always like to say lose fat, because when you lose weight, you're losing muscle. We don't want to lose muscle. We want to lose fat. That's what people want. People get too focused on this number. And again, when I'm going back to this girl, I want to make it really, really clear. I work with clients who are overweight all the time. So does Dawn. So that's not the point. The point is they're not portraying themselves as personal trainers, right? Now, after even our clients, after they've gone a year and a half, because that's what it's going to take. A lot of people that are seriously obese, it's going to take minimum a year to a year and a half to lose fat the right way. They can share their experience and what they did to get there. And it may work for somebody else. We're all a little bit different, but they can share that. And that's a good, positive thing. And that's what we want, for people to have better lives, to feel better about themselves, to be more confident, and just to be healthier and live longer. But to put yourself out there as somebody in the fitness area that knows something about fitness, which to me includes health, and for you to be in that kind of shape, I just don't understand what companies are doing when they're doing this, or the individuals, or why somebody would be willing to cough up their money. See, if I come to you and tell you the gym that I'm at, what kind of services do you have? What kind of, what programs do you have? And if you assign a trainer like that to me, that looks like that, I'm going to ask you politely to find me someone else. Or I'm going to take my money somewhere else. Why wouldn't I? That's totally ridiculous, right? But anyways, I just want to get that out there. But this 20-year-old, she at least has a small amount of experience, in getting ready. I guess she's done a show or two or whatever, but she hasn't done a shit ton of. I mean, how long can you have been training if you're 20? But holding herself out there as a coach, but everybody wants to be on Instagram as an influencer. And that's why that's important to this, because she was not competing at the Arnold Classic she was at, and where she died because of dehydration, because she was using thermogenics and diuretics that were not typical necessarily. They were very, very extreme. And in fact, it was a very short period of time when, I can say, well, I'll get into that when I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I've mentioned the product here on, other episodes. It's called DNP. DNP is very, very powerful, and you have to be extremely careful, and you could still fuck up, right? And I'm just out of pure transparency, I'm admitting and saying that I've used it. I'm not saying it was smart, because I'm an idiot. I do dumb shit. Okay. I'm not telling it, nobody, but I don't recommend it to clients. I have had a handful of other people that had experience that wanted to get their hands on it and, whatever. But it's not in any of the things that I talk about or recommend with people now. And if somebody would bring it up with me, I'd be like, fuck no. Because it's one thing if somebody is a very experienced, and I don't say this often, but a very experienced bodybuilder at the very highest levels who's already a pro. People are going to make choices for themselves, regardless of whatever I have to say about it. And the same with Greg Doucette. You're going to make your own choices. What I don't like is his portrayal of, like, oh, you should just stay natty, or they should be able to. Well, you'll see when we get to it. Let's play a little bit of the video so people can kind of get an idea finally of what we're talking about here.
Can't we do our best to clean up the sport? Does anyone think that if she were 100% natural, that she wouldn't be with us today? Is it worth it? Coach Greg, and again, some really sad news, devastating news in the fitness industry, as bodybuilding claims the life of another female, and this time an amateur, and she's only 20 years of age. And so her name is Jody Vance. She's a bodybuilder. She's also a coach. And the suspected cause of death, it's severe dehydration resulting in her heart, let's just call it giving out.
Vance, who was also a coach, was in Ohio attending the Arnold Sports Festival when she died.
And so listen, talking about being at the Arnold Classic, she wasn't competing. She was simply there as a spectator. And so imagine this. You're dehydrated, you're taking drugs, performance-enhancing drugs, not recreational drugs, and you're doing that to look good at the Arnold Classic, to perhaps take selfies with your fans. This is what's wrong with the sport. We need to clean it up. There's way too much pressure to look good. Her heart stopped due to complications of severe dehydration. Despite all efforts by the hospital, they were unable to revive her. The reason I'm recording this video is I'm trying to make a difference. Yes, I know many of you are saying you're a hypocrite. You used and abused performance-enhancing drugs. I'm not denying that. But can't we learn from mine and other people's mistakes?
Hold it.
Can't we
Just stop
do
it
our...
there. His mistakes, he wanted to compete at the pro level. At the pro level, drugs are a given. And more people over the last 15 years easily that will never step on stage use testosterone and other performance enhancing drugs to just be better in their daily life. They do it to run cycles. They have their own personal reasons. I had my own personal reasons, and I don't mind sharing what those personal reasons are, but this idea that he's putting out that he made a mistake, you didn't know? This idea that testosterone still, and that's what it gets to, testosterone's going to kill you. At what's an abusive, what are we going to call, do we even agree on what is an abusive level of testosterone? Because what we have is a bunch of people that have, at least he has experience with it, but we have a bunch of people who are natty that have opinions on this shit that have no fucking clue, when this really should be debated by people like Greg and I. People that have experience, that have used. I'm not an IFBB pro, so I can absolutely give a totally different perspective on my reasons for using the things I've used. And quite honestly, if I wasn't in the health that I'm in, I wouldn't have survived what happened to me last October when I had COVID for 5 weeks, and the COVID fucked with my heart, my hormones. It was partly because of how healthy and strong that I am, that I was able to literally survive that. It didn't cause my problem. My problem wasn't caused by testosterone. My problem was caused by fucking COVID. And again, this is just a situation where somebody is using, there are extreme products out there, but he said, when he referred to the performance enhancing drugs, and then he says this wasn't recreational. Are you trying to say that what's recreational? Cocaine? What, cocaine's okay? Get the fuck out of here, man. That's just stupid to say, act like recreational drugs can't fuck your shit up. And especially recreational drugs today, which were nothing like the recreational drugs of when I was 20, or when my aunts and uncles or older cousins were 20, and dropping a little acid or some bullshit, or, whatever they were doing, get the fuck out of here. We didn't have fentanyl put in our shit. And now there's literally fentanyl in everything. At least it feels that way. So somebody who has not abused, who maybe just be experiencing some of those recreational drugs for the first time, can die the first time. Nobody that's taken a testosterone shot has died from their first testosterone shot. It's not a thing. It hasn't happened. So he gives his point of view on this, and I'm not saying that it's not important, but maybe we can move it a little bit forward. I don't know, and when he talks about these different classes and stuff, I don't know if it lets us. Oh, that's the coach, her coach talking about it. We can play a second of that. That's all right.
Your heart, your kidneys, and so on.
Jody used 2 extremely hazardous substances to improve her physique without my knowledge, my approval, without family's knowledge, their approval.
I've always told people this. Just because they don't admit that they're taking something, that they don't tell you that they're a fake natty, not mean that they're not. Oftentimes people are taking things in secret. And so, trust me, I've coached other athletes who claimed they were 100% natural. Their coaches thought they were natural, but I was coaching them on what to take. They came to me in secret. Hey, what should I take? How much Anavar? How much of this? How much of that? Meanwhile, they wouldn't work with me because they knew if you're working with Coach Greg, people are going to assume that you're not natty. And so they hire a natty coach to pretend that they're natural. Now, remember, when people tell me things in
Then are they
confidence,
competing
it
in a
stays in.
natty show?
I'm not going to out them.
Many people who love Jody, including myself, try to get her to pull off the gas pedal a bit. Anyone who knows Jody knows how challenging that would be.
And so the pressure is real. Even upon discovering that she's taking these hazardous substances, saying, hey, could you stop? You shouldn't be doing this. She wouldn't stop. Remember, bodybuilding, steroids, performance-enhancing drugs, all of these can be addictive, perhaps not physically, but mentally addictive. You get used to the changes, the glory, the compliments from other people, and you just can't stop. What do you think could have happened? She may have competed in a bodybuilding competition. The judges would have said, hey, you know what? You need to get leaner. You were perhaps 10 pounds over your ideal weight. Judges are giving honest, accurate, critical assessment, saying, this is what you need to improve. Following the competition, they go off the rails, they start binge eating, thinking bulking, cutting, that's the answer. Why would I listen to Coach Greg? Why would I stay at a healthy body fat percentage for me and then main gain when I can bulk and cut? Because that's the answer to muscle growth. You don't think I've bulked and cut? You don't think I know the mindset of the competitors? The roller coaster of emotions that you will go through when you look in the mirror and you don't like the reflection that appears. And so what do you think happened? I'll tell you what. She likely began to use either clenbuterol, T3,
Nope.
or something even far worse called DNP. And so
Yep.
when you start
You can
abusing
stop it
these
there.
fat burners,
T3, she was not using, that was not going to cause what her particular issue was. And there's no reason, you know, whether or not she was taking clenbuterol or had ever taken clenbuterol, there's no reason to take clenbuterol if you're taking DNP. It's not two things that you take together. It's one or the other. And clenbuterol is more typical and going to be a lot safer than the DNP. You know, it's going to raise your body temperature and help you burn fat. It's also going to be a stimulant, but the DNP is clenbuterol times 100. It's that much more extreme. So you're not going to be doing both. It's be one or the other. That would be crazy. And again, because it's so much stronger, even if you were taking them both together, which would be ridiculous. I don't even know how you would do that because I have taken both. I don't even know how you do that. It would still be the DNP because it's so much more dominant. You know, it would be 90% the DNP, 10% for the clenbuterol. The T3 is just going to be for metabolism purposes to increase your ability to metabolize it. That's what it's going to do. It's a thyroid drug. That's what T3 is. You know, T4 is a precursor. T3 is just going right to the real shit. That's the difference there. So absolutely, I believe it's the DNP and the amount, and you don't know. See, that's the thing. You have to really start out low because you just don't know how it's going to affect someone because we're all different. And she was doing it with zero help and very little experience because of her age. How much experience can you fucking have when you're 20? You can't. See, the thing is, I had knowledge for a long time. I started in my early mid-20s gaining I was probably maybe about 23, 24. I started gaining knowledge on supplements and performance enhancing drugs and anything I could get my hands on information wise. And remember, this shit wasn't like we could look it up on Google. It wasn't like that then. So doing the best I could at getting my hands on that kind of information. And I actually fell for a while for the scam that you could get the results that pros get from shit that you could buy over the counter to some degree. And I knew about steroids and stuff and like, but not to, I actually did believe in some of this over the counter stuff. And there was some over the counter stuff that did actually work, but pretty much, except for SARMs, which is later now, but at the time, anything that came out that did work over the counter, they eventually shut it down. I mean, they shut down ephedrine, they shut down androstenedione, they shut down Superdrol. You know, those worked, and they shut it down. And you couldn't get it just over the counter or at a supplement store anymore. That's one reason you know what worked. Whatever they were banning, you knew that was the thing to get. That's how my sick mind worked. Oh, I want that. So that's going to work. But they would, put ads in these magazines like we talked with Ron Harris. They'd put these ads in these magazines and say they did all these scientific tests and use all these sciencey words. I don't even know if that's a word, sciencey, but you get my meaning. These sciencey words that it sounded believable. And they were people that you respected and wanted to look like. Except it was a big fucking scam to take your money. And you probably could have got like real shit that really worked cheaper. That's the way that is. So, but still, with all that knowledge I had that I gained over the next 15 years was nothing. I'm not saying it didn't have some value, but compared to when I actually started using and fucking up, like I tell you, don't do an anavar only cycle. Guess what I did when I first started using an anavar only cycle? Again, the experience you have then of using, and in my case, I just don't have my own personal experience. I don't know how many people Greg has helped. I'm sure it's a lot, but I know I've helped easily over 4,000 people over the past 15 years. So I have all of their experiences to talk about and to share as well. So I did want to get to the part where he talks about, right. Let's see if that has it in there.
Isn't it not possible she was using diuretics to look leaner, to stand at the expo and meet fans? Well, maybe.
Probably.
They don't
People do
say
that.
which specific drugs they are, and so take your pick. Was it DNP? Was it diuretics? Was it clenbuterol? Was it T3? Does it matter? She's 20. She's at an expo. Why should she feel the pressure to look leaner than last time? To resort to taking drugs to beat society's standards of beauty? And so this is really sad because do you know how many other people are doing this? You think she's the only one? Half the people doing the exact same thing. How many of you think bodybuilders are all natural? Even the majority of the natural bodybuilders aren't natural. And so when I plead to the IFBB, add more weight classes, maybe try drug testing. Why do you think that is? Have you not seen classic physique? Oh, it's more for the mainstream. An attainable physique. How many of you can attain C-Bum's physique or Mike Sommerfeld? Almost no one. Oh, what about men's physique? The board shorts division.
Which
those
I've
guys
said.
are small. They're all
All right,
bigger
stop it
than
right
Coach
here.
Greg.
This is what I want to get to. Classic physique, classic physique, which is what you see there with the board shorts, which is what I competed with at the Kentucky Open. I mean, look at those guys' legs. Only the guy on the left has room between his legs and the shorts. Every other guy is filling out the leg part of those shorts. Now I realize they're not too long or super long, but if they were longer, maybe you would see that gap. And there are rules to what size and what inseam you can have on those. But look at that. And I can tell you, if I had you, I'm not going to have you do it, Chase, but if I had you pull up, and people can do it for themselves if they want, pull up Classic Physique 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whenever it fucking started, you're going to see guys that are very fit, very athletic, ripped, showing the abs, but they're not going to have legs like this. They're not going to be this big on top. They're going to look like Calvin Klein models. You remember, like Mark Wahlberg? Remember when Mark Wahlberg was fucking ripped and did all those Calvin Klein shit? That was Classic Physique, dude. And now these guys, look at that. Like that guy second in there in the orange or peach or whatever the fucking color that is. Jesus Christ. That's exactly, or this is Physique. I keep saying Classic Physique because of what he said before. But the Physique, this is why I didn't do Classic Physique, because that was the guys like C-Bum, which I was originally going to do 4 years ago, because I didn't feel like I could put on enough size, put on enough weight. Even amongst old guys, I didn't think I could do that. And then physique-wise, I thought, maybe I can do that with old guys, because very few old guys are going to be, 50 years and up, and you have age categories that are going to look like this. But what I totally disagree with Greg on is, look, this is a niche sport. We talked about that with Ron Harris. It's always been a niche sport. And the success of making bodybuilding bigger, it hasn't really gotten bigger over my lifetime. There's a small segment of people that, are into it. And everybody that goes to the gym isn't into this shit. They're just not. Some people like it and appreciate it. Some people don't. Or some people, oh, that's way too big. Well, everybody has their own opinions, and that's fine. But you know what, nobody's interested in? Natty. Ain't nobody interested in fucking natty. It's just not a thing. And that's why do you think as he said, he was correct. Half of the natty fucking people, right, are not natty. They're not true natties because they just couldn't because that's not what people want. That's not what it's hard enough to put on a show and get people to show up to see it that aren't family members, right? Or your friends that come to see you compete and make any money. And in this case, if you were to add more classes like he's talking about for men and women so that they wouldn't have to do this, that they could be healthier. Dude, there's so many classes now because it was never like this 25 years ago. You didn't have all of these classes. Again, Ron talked about it. Go back and see that episode. It's a great episode if you haven't checked it out. But in this case, you just let's see. You might, on certain classes that go by age, some go by weight and height. Okay, there's all these different classes now. And you might have, in a good size class, you might have 8 guys. Typically, there might only be 4 or 5 guys you're competing with. And then you might be the only guy in the class, or there's just 2 of you. So what, you're going to water it down even more? What, so you can do what? Hand out ribbons and swords and the stupid shit they hand out for trophies? How meaningful for that is the competitor for you to win against nobody? And like for me, that's why, we drove down to Kentucky from Toledo, Ohio, because we at least wanted to be in a big enough show that we were going to have enough competitors in the class. Mm-hmm. But still, even in that particular show, that was still some classes limited for both men and women, where there weren't that many in the class. So to add even more just is just ridiculous. This is just what it is. And you know what? If you're going to be a professional football player, you take certain risks. You take certain risks, right? That CTE is a real thing. And we know that it's a real thing now. And we know how much greater, how much it's affected NFL players in their brains and how they've been able to live out their retirement years. We know more about it than ever before. And then and those are guys that are getting paid, and they decide that the risk is worth it because for the paycheck, because it's their best option out of whatever life they're coming from. Or even more so, boxers. Boxers have been doing this for a long fucking time. You know, the head trauma. It is tremendous. But when you're coming out of fucking Colombia and you're lucky to get 2 meals a day and you're poor and you're broke, but you can throw a punch, you know, for some of them, they decided it was worth it, you know, and that's a choice people make. And I'm all for people being able to make whatever choices they want to make. I've always been that way for the most part. When it's a choice about you, I'm all for that. Even then you go to, I have some friends that football, you know, like semi-pro football kind of, or, you know, in 25 to 35 years old, maybe a couple guys are a little bit older, but competing full pads on a team, and they have to pay to be on the motherfucking team. Now, just because they're amateurs does not mean that they can't get fucking concussions or that there's not risk. Bull riding, risk. Motocross, risk. It's fucking life. And you just got to decide. But to further water this down is not going to grow this sport. It's not. And I don't know where the sport's really going to go. But I do know, and what I try to do, you know, my focus originally was helping people who were going to use PEDs no matter what, not make the mistakes that I made when I first started using. All right. And that when they did a cycle, they did the cycle, that they've done blood work, that after the cycle, they do a post-cycle therapy, or in the case of them being older and having low T, that they go back to a TRT dose. But, you know, my main focus originally was helping men, some women, do proper cycles to reach particular goals. And then it really kind of changed. I still do that. That's still a big part of what I do and what I consult with. But at that time when I was originally started out, TRT wasn't talked about like it is today. The change in talking about testosterone replacement therapy over the last 15 years has been good, that we can at least talk about it now. And it's better that we're able to do this. We're still nowhere where we need to be yet, right? Still nowhere where we need to be. And I want that just grew for me, just helping people with just their TRT and how important it is. And then when guys get comfortable with their TRT and they are working out, then sometimes with their friends, they're like, you know, maybe I'm ready to do a cycle. I've done TRT for 6 months or a year now, and I think I'd like to run a cycle because I'd like to add a little bit more muscle, get ready for a particular vacation, and look good. It is what it is. And people are going to do it no matter what you think of it or whatever I think of it. What I want people help people do is to do it as safely as possible. And that's what I do. So with this, I just totally disagree with his take on this for the sport of bodybuilding. It's a shame that this young girl died. I'm not going to go with all this bullshit pressure from society and stuff. You know what? I'm big on personal responsibility, and that doesn't mean I'm blaming this young girl, but we're not going to blame Instagram either. That's just total bullshit. We are responsible for what we choose to do, right? You've been watching the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. Hit that subscribe button for me. Share the show. Give us some comments and some feedback, please, on the changes that we've made with the segments, trying to be more concise, give you what you might be looking for. God bless. So, as a part of this, too, I wanted to continue to show people what else I do, with the TRT, and give you this. This is text that I got this weekend. This is from Paul, and he's in Michigan, and he's been looking to get on test. He's pushing his mid-50s, so basically my age, right? I'm 56. He's active, not getting the results. He's been on it before. His numbers were in the low 200s. So when he got tested for low T, he tested in the low 200s. But get this, the doctor put him on testosterone, but then took him off when he hit 327 because he said he's now in the normal range. Well, guess what happens when you stop taking the testosterone? The testosterone doesn't cure you, and 327 is still low, okay? Most good doctors will treat you for low T at 327, okay? And if you stop taking it, he's going to crash again, and he probably, if he would have gotten tested afterwards, he would have tested even lower than that. You could see my response to because you should sue him. That's insane. There's no even shitty doctor where I've seen this kind of thing where they just shut him off at 327. Now I could see where he would you're in the normal range. We're just going to keep you in this shitty area. Yeah, you don't feel any change or any different, but you're in the normal range now, so we're just going to leave you there. But to then shut him off, that's insanity. That just is total malpractice. I don't know what else to call it. So let's go on to the next one to continue my messages with him. And I asked him what the dosage was. Get this. And we talked about this, right? We've been talking about this on other episodes of the podcast. They started him off with one shot every month. One shot. 200 milligrams once a month. Then it went to one every 2 weeks. But when the doctor wanted to up it, the administrator said no. And I don't know who those administrators, that's just crazy. That's just literally crashing somebody. What do I say? I didn't even have to tell him or prep him for this. He says it right here. He's good for a few days. It's working. And then he noticed it start to tail off, which is why I say, yeah, you can do it every once a week. Every 2 weeks you're crashing, but you can do it once a week. But even better, whether you're feeling a drop off or not, is splitting the weekly dose into 2 doses to keep it more level. And you want to be way the fuck over 327 because in any range out there that they have, and there's multiple ranges, in any range out there, that's on the low end. And there's no reason that you can't be higher. There's no health risk for being higher and feeling better and having a higher testosterone range, regardless of your age, just none. And then at the very last one then, and this is just a guy that just wants, Dawn said it today when we were training and we were done. that we get pretty much daily now. I'm not bragging. You know, we get a lot of compliments. We get compliments because usually 5 out of 7 days a week we match outfits even, you know, kind of. We're both wearing blue on the same day or whatever. Like we kind of go together and people see us, oh, you guys look so good. And you know, both being fit for our age and things like that. And people say something to us literally daily, multiple times a day. But we still feel the effects of being 56 years old and the shit that we've done over 56 years. We still feel that. And I absolutely don't know what people who are not fit, who are overweight, who don't eat well, like, I don't know how you get through life, man, because I'm trying to get through and I'm doing all these positive things and I still feel that 56-year-old shit. You know, it maybe looks good on the outside, but I still feel it. I still feel it in my knees, you know, I still feel it in his shoulder. That is a thing, right? So let's go to the last one he had there, because this is just, you know, we decided, you know, there was a fourth one. You didn't have.
That's the fourth one.
I thought, what was the one before this? Okay, I thought I sent one other one to you. It was basically that it's going to be life-changing for him. Doing this right is life-changing, but it shouldn't take, if you go to a doctor, it shouldn't take 6 months for the doctor to figure out how to do it right. And in cases like this is a doctor that's never going to fucking figure it out. That's what we have to change. And then, you know, our previous episode when with Abe Morgan-Taylor on Dr. Gabriel Lyon show, that he talked about doctors not doing this kind of crap anymore. They absolutely are. That was the only point I could really find of contention with him, because he's very, very good. But the idea that your basic average physician has some idea of how to do it right today is not true. Not even 10% of doctors. And I don't care if they're endocrinologists. I don't care if they have a specialty or they're what they are, or just a family physician. I don't care. It's put them all together. It's less than 10%. They're probably less than 5 that are really good, that truly know how to treat people properly for low testosterone. And it is makes a huge difference over and over again. It's literally life-changing. So I know we went a little long in this segment, but I wanted to bring these two things together because that's mainly, you know, what my focus is. So MAGA. We're going to do the Make America Great Again. A little bit of politics for just a moment. What I want people to do, and maybe we'll get into this in a later episode, because this is going to go on for a minute. But I just wanted to share with people, because a lot of stuff is being said about tariffs right now, right? Well, how about what was going on with tariffs before Trump made, you know, tariffs this beautiful word? It's a beautiful word. Tariffs are beautiful. And I'm all for the tariffs. Absolutely, I am. Because I believe that I believe in free trade. And we don't have free trade right now. And we don't have fair trade. Why are people willing to accept for our goods to be penalized going into another country, but we should allow them to just send whatever the fuck they want to our country? I don't get you Americans that think that shit's okay, because it's not. But prior to this, I just want to give you some examples that I was able to find. So Canada is trying to protect their farmers. Their milk producers. So they have a 270% tariff on U.S. produced milk going into Canada. 270%. So isn't Wisconsin like the dairy capital of the U.S., basically, right? That's where the cheeseheads live, right? So I assume that that's where the dairy is a big deal. 270%. How much milk from the U.S., when you got a state right across the border, is Canada taking if the tariff is 270%? Not fucking much, right? Cheese, 245% tariff. Butter, 298% tariff. Now, look, y'all, like I know this going back some years from doing my radio show, and I've covered this before. And Republicans were responsible, and I I made it a thing. I just was disappointed. And it was Rubio. Rubio was senator in Florida then. He'd been a senator for was senator before becoming secretary for quite some time. And in Florida, is where our sugar producers are. And we placed high sugar tariffs on other countries. Like we pay as Americans way too much for sugar. Now, I'm not saying it's healthy, we should, but we pay way too much for sugar. And that's true because we place these tariffs on these other countries. Now, how it's supposed to be is if they can make sugar cheaper somewhere else, great. Let them make the sugar. Send it to us, and we'll send them shit that they can't make, right? Isn't that how trade is supposed to be? It just would make sense to me that that's how it should be. But other countries protect their shit, we protect our shit. And what Trump is just saying, how about like we get to a point where we treat each other fairly, and it's not just tariffs, all right? Tariffs are a part of it, but then what they'll do besides that is they'll put certain regulatory hurdles on our product that can also hinder us sending our American-made product to their country. So it's not just tariffs, and nobody has mentioned this before. I'm mentioning it, that regulatory issues are a big deal, and I'm sure we do some of that to some of them too. In the EU, they had 25% corns, beans, and rice. This is prior to anything Trump or Trump doing anything to them. They had tariffs on our corns, beans, and rice. We make a shit ton of corn, right? Okay. Shouldn't we be able to export that? You would think that would be a good thing, right? And then I thought I looked up, cars, right? 10% on ours, and we put a 2.5% tariff on theirs. And there's different numbers for trucks, but just basic vehicles, 10%. So that makes our cars more expensive over there. And then I don't know what other regulatory hurdles they may have too, but just talk about tariffs. So like this whole tariff bullshit that Trump's going to ruin the economy because of tariffs. We already have tariffs all over the economy. And I think what he's trying to do is clean it up in a way. And partly, again, something else that's not being talked about that you're already seeing very quickly take effect is bringing jobs back here, making it so it's easier and cheaper for companies to make products here that we need, because if we get into some shit with China, if that were to happen right now, we'd be fucked. Because, these chips, we don't make a lot of these chips. And I'm not talking about the kind of chips you eat either. Okay? We want to bring that production here. Drugs. We want to bring more of that production here. Drones. We want to bring that production here and create jobs. And so there's going to be some little bit of disruption, Maybe prices increase. People will figure it out. They'll buy things from different places. We'll buy things from different places. If it's too expensive here, we'll buy it somewhere else. People will figure that shit out. But it's about taking care of Americans. You may agree with him or not agree with him on the strategy, but at least understand the purpose isn't to fuck people. Why in the world would he want to fuck Americans and screw them to no benefit of him? It's a benefit to him and his legacy and how he wants to be thought of as a great president 50 years, 100 years from now, for him to produce results for the American people. That's what he wants to do. He wants to produce results for the American people and do what? Make this country great again. We used to make shit in this country. And a lot of the rules that have been in place, we put these rules in place, and these tariffs were put in place so that we could help Europe be competitive again after World War II, so that Europe could rebuild, because Europe was destroyed. It was just literally leveled. Okay, it's rebuilt. How about that? It's rebuilt. We don't need to keep doing that anymore. And that's what we said. How about like we adjust how we treat things to the current climate instead of the way things were 60 and 70 years ago? Because things are not that way anymore. That's it. It's that simple. So don't let people bullshit you with, oh, tariffs, oh my God. Now, ultimately, this is going to be a good thing to bring people to the table, to find ways that we can do business with each other that's beneficial to everyone, to both sides. That's what we want. We just want some fairness, and it hasn't been fair. We've allowed other countries to take advantage of the United States, and we don't owe anybody shit, okay? We've saved, literally, our grandparents saved the world. So we don't owe anybody anymore. We've done enough for the rest of the world. And now we've gotten a little off track. Let's get back on track. That's simple, right? That's simple. So that's what I have for our Make America Great Again. All right. Last segment of the show. Miska, whatever the fuck that is, make sports great again. All right. Coming up, and we'll be talking about this over the next couple of weeks, March Madness is upon us. We have a lot this weekend. You know, you're having tournaments, women's tournaments as well, conference tournaments, and that's going to affect all the seeding. So I'm not sure. I didn't check the date, but probably by next weekend is when they'll have the seeding for, you know, the biggest time for college basketball of the year, which is March Madness. And I always enjoy that, regardless of how much I sometimes pay more attention some years than others to regular season basketball for college. But no matter what, and a lot of people are that way when it comes to the March Madness tournament, that might be the only time they pay attention, or it might be because they get in a pool or something. That's all good. It's going to be huge. It's going to be fun. I've actually done something else. You know what else I've been watching? I was watching the Big Ten wrestling championships. I love wrestling. I was a wrestler. Like, it's just been fun to watch. And Dawn's actually enjoyed watching the wrestling and learning a little bit about it. And it's changed. Not a lot, but the points and the scoring and some things have changed. So just big part of the college season right now. I can say I actually have a little bit more of an interest because of Caitlin Clark over the last couple of years. You know, she was a pro last year, but she played college, finished college last year, and did play in last year's women's tournament. And then they had their draft, and then the WNBA season started, right? but I'm actually, and was even paying attention today to South Carolina winning the SEC championship for the women. And I actually placed my bet for the South Carolina women to win it all. That's my big my big bet. South Carolina women. Take what you want from it. But they just like absolutely destroyed Texas today. They were just dominant. So it's probably going to come down to the big two, which is South Carolina and UConn. But I'm actually have a little bit more interest. I think it's crazy. I don't understand it in the women's college basketball even than the men's. But the tournament for the men, absolutely bigger. And more people watch, more people see. But there is growth for the women. There is growth and good players on a number of teams, USC and others. So, and then money. Good Lord. I don't know. Still don't know what's going to happen with my Steelers. But Myles Garrett, you know, the Browns are our biggest rival. And or have been. They haven't been much of a rival over the last number of years, but Myles Garrett, great player, wanted to leave the Browns, really pushing the Browns, and somehow they got him to agree to stay by making him the highest paid non-quarterback, and that's after a couple days after Max Crosby had just been made the highest paid non-quarterback. What I don't get for the Browns is how the fuck does that math work? Where you spend all this money on Deshaun Watson and have gotten nothing from this guy, literally nothing. I mean, you haven't in 3 years, you haven't gotten a season's worth of games from that motherfucker. He hasn't played even a total in all 3 years. You can't add it up. It's shit. And they just renegotiated or redid part of his contract to move some shit around. He still gets all that guaranteed money, but it affects their cap space or something like that. But, you know, they're basically trying to get through another year and then get rid of him. That's what they're trying to do money-wise. And look, Garrett deserves the money. He's that good. But here's the problem. You didn't make your team any better by keeping him. You're spending even more money now to do what? Be the same as you were last year and to get some draft picks that you already had? When maybe if you do let him go, and it would be hard to let him go, that instead of spending, what was the total amount? What did we have in the, because it was like $40 million a year for 4 seasons, I think. So I don't know if it's 160 or like it's huge, and a good chunk of it is guaranteed too, like a high amount. More and more is getting guaranteed now. 123 million in guaranteed money. So basically, that's huge. That's just huge. So out of 160 million, 123 is guaranteed. They never used to do that stuff. I remember when James Harrison got like, I don't know what it was, 25 or 30 million guaranteed. And that dude was a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like the money today. But I don't deny any of these guys the money. I'm just saying, how smart was it for the Browns to be the one to give it to him? Let somebody else give it to him, because you telling me you can't take that same, $160 million and instead of playing one play, get 4 better than average players that you can add to your team now to make you better and win more games? We know what you did this year with Garrett. We already know. We've seen that movie. It's over. So I'm happy for him. He gets his money. He wants to stay and not win a championship, but get paid. Because he said he wanted to win a championship. That's why he wanted to move on to have the chance to win a championship. That's not happening. Not soon. And I don't know if it'll happen in his career or not. He is 29. He's definitely got, gas left in the tank for sure. But how long is it going to take the Browns to turn around? They've shown nothing that they can turn anything around. They've just been totally incompetent. So Good for him on the money. If you're a Browns fan, honestly, if you're happy about this, you don't know much about football. Because you got to be really honestly saying, what the fuck? What are they doing here? Because that just makes no sense. So there we go. Those are our 3 segments that we have now. Each and every episode, we have our MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, our MAGA, Make America Great Again, and MISGA, Make Sports Great Again. Before we sign off, I did want to share, this is miscellaneous. We did say we have a miscellaneous. We're only going to take a couple minutes here and play this for you. That I found this on a reel, I think, right? Was it a reel or was this TikTok? No, it says reels up
Facebook.
there. Yeah. So just totally hilarious because this is when I grew up. I grew up with Mr. Rogers. So check this out. Yeah, we got to
Stay a boy.
Yeah, we got to go back to the beginning. We want to hear the beginning.
Boys are boys from the beginning. If you were born a boy, you stay a boy. Girls are girls right from the start. If you were born a girl, you stay a girl and grow up to be a lady. Everybody's fancy. Everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine. Only girls can be the mommies. Only boys can be the daddies. Yes, sir. Everybody's fancy. Everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is boys.
Yeah. They would protest this motherfucker today. He would be canceled. It's nuts. All right, that's what we have for you. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life.